Secretary Yellen of the Treasury beginning to sound the alarm, saying that it is almost certain that the United States will go into a recession if the debt ceiling is breached. Here's what she said.
Failure to meet the government's obligations would cause irreparable harm to the United States economy, the livelihoods of all Americans, and global financial stability. So, in brief, what kind of irreparable harm, and particularly for American households, how would average American households experience this?
A failure to make payments that are due, whether it's to bondholders or to Social Security recipients or to our military, would undoubtedly cause a recession in the U.S. economy and could cause a global financial crisis. It would certainly undermine the role of the dollar as a reserve currency that is used in transactions all over the world. And many people would lose their jobs, and certainly their borrowing costs would rise.
Yeah, so the borrowing costs, I actually think that might be the most important thing, because if the banks are not able to put out cash, that could really dry a lot of things up. That's actually one of the things that happened behind the impetus for the initial bailout of 2008, was just so companies could make payroll, just frankly, whatever. It's
They're
complicated.
in trouble rolling over their debt.
Rollover debt, financial stuff, that all of it comes down to it's bad. And then the point is that when is the actual debt ceiling going to get hit? If you'd ask the administration, technically it was on Thursday, but they have something called extraordinary measures. Extraordinary measures it's an interesting thing, because for a time it was thought to be unconstitutional during the Obama era, given that the president and basically the White House and the executive needs to spend money exactly the way that the Congress appropriates said money. Actually, there was a bill that was passed through Congress that allows the Treasury Department to take on these so-called extraordinary measures, where they're allowed to raid the trust funds of certain U.S. assets that they can then use and borrow. Now, they're not allowed to use Social Security, but they are allowed to use others. And then the actual date on which the debt limit is really going to be hit after extraordinary measures have been exhausted is estimated to be sometime in the summer. It actually really depends on interest rates and a lot of other stuff that spans between May and possibly July. But anyways, we're reaching the precipice, and things need to heat up for some sort of negotiation. The White House said they're not going to negotiate. Okay, you could say that if you want to, but you're clearly going to negotiate. The House GOP, Kevin McCarthy got the pound of flesh extracted for him. He's got to negotiate. And Joe Manchin actually talking about some prospective deal, which I found kind of interesting for a variety of reasons. Here he was on the Sunday shows pressing for the White House just to begin negotiations. Let's take a listen.
No negotiations with Republicans at all. Is that a mistake?
Well, I think it's a mistake, because we have to negotiate. This is a democracy that we have. We have a two-party system, if you will, and we should be able to talk and find out where our differences are. And if they're irreconcilable, then you have to move on from there and let the people make their decisions.
So what's interesting, though, Krystal, is that in continuing on in that interview, when he talked about some sort of prospective deal, even Manchin is saying there should be no cuts to Social Security and to Medicare, and rejects the idea of raising the Social Security retirement age. He instead suggests raising taxable wage cap for employees that are paying into the Social Security program, something I'd frankly be totally fine with.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is, I mean, that's the Bernie Sanders position. That's Bernie has introduced legislation that would do exactly that, because basically the way it is now, you guys probably already know this, but there's an income cap beyond which Social Security tax is not taken out. And so if you just lift that cap, Social Security would be solvent for another 75 years. You don't have to change benefits. You don't have to do any of this crap. So Manchin taking that position. Listen, I mean, West Virginia is a state that is poor.
Yes.
It is disproportionately more elderly than the rest of the country. So you have a lot of people in West Virginia who depend on Social Security, where it's a real important lifeline for them personally, for the economy of the state, for all of those things. So listen, oftentimes you see Manchin posturing like he's, taking the position that's best for West Virginia, when in reality he's taking the position that's best for his corporate donors. But in this instance, he really is, with the Social Security piece, taking the position that is good for his state.
Well, one of the reasons it's not fair is that the taxable wage cap for Social Security is $160,000. So if you make over $160,000, then you don't actually have to pay Social Security payroll tax, or there's like a graduated income scale or whatever. Whereas if you make under that, you actually have to pay the full thing. So you're actually getting paid or getting taxed at a higher rate than a lot of cases, even if your overall dollar amount being contributed to the fund. So it's a complete carve out for rich people. I mean, at the very least, you should cap it at what, 500,000, something like that.
Don't
I mean,
cap
that's
it.
I mean, personally,
Don't gab it.
I'd be fine with that, but I mean, I don't know, how could you really argue against $400,000 in terms of net income?
It's a regressive tax, and then it allows people to posture like, oh, we can't afford this, whatever. It's like,
it's
lift
also
the cap, and then you won't have a problem.
This is a pet peeve of mine, but everybody's like, oh, in the bottom 47% don't pay taxes. I'm like, well, if you're a W-2 worker, you actually do pay payroll tax, and payroll tax can be quite onerous for a lot of those people.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.